This strike did not occur on the front line, but it did not occur at random either. The location is Odessa, a port city, a logistics hub, a regional energy node. To the public, this looks unusual. To military planners, it is consistent. Because modern war does not begin in trenches, it begins with systems. And systems that sustain a state are often more valuable than individual combat units. This strike was not emotional, it was operational. Many people still think in outdated maps. There is a front, there is a rear. That map no longer applies. When weapons can travel hundreds of kilometers, the rear simply means less frequent attacks, not safety. There is no major Ukrainian city outside effective range. This is not about a specific weakness. It is about technological reality, and technology always reshapes warfare faster than public perception. The destruction scene is not accidental, and it is not just fire. What failed was a node, not a random structure. In energy systems, a single point can control multiple pathways. Destroy that point, and the collapse spreads on its own. This is where public perception often fails. People measure attacks by explosion size. Militaries measure them by downstream effects. In Odessa, those downstream effects are what became visible. Drones were present. Drones played a role. But small drones rarely produce systemic failure on their own. They are effective for pressure, for disruption, for opening moves, not for decisive strikes. When a large network collapses, a reasonable question follows. Was something heavier involved, faster, more precise? At that point, analysis begins to shift. In Russian doctrine, attacks rarely stand alone. They are phased. The opening phase disrupts. Low-cost drones, high volume, low altitude. The goal is not destruction. The goal is reaction. Air defenses activate. Radars stay on. Interceptors are expended. Only then do high-value options become effective. This is not theory. It is a repeated pattern. Iskander appears in discussions not because of myth, but because of fit. It is designed for high-value targets, not wide-area strikes, not symbolic damage. Energy infrastructure qualifies. One large warhead, one critical point, a cascading effect without the need for repeated strikes. Russian production capacity allows selective use, not unlimited, but sufficient. That is why every precise deep strike immediately triggers speculation. What happened in Odessa is not an anomaly. It is a case study. This is modern warfare, system-based, long-range. Drones are the visible layer. The decisive strike is often unseen. As long as energy systems remain vulnerable, the so-called rear will remain part of the battlefield. This analysis is not meant to declare a winner, and not to provoke emotional alignment. It is meant to understand how modern war functions, how systems are targeted, how narratives are shaped. If a city far from the front can go dark, then the real question is no longer who is stronger, but whose systems are more fragile. That is where thinking matters. Not reacting, not following momentum, thinking together, comparing claims, testing narratives. That is the purpose of this channel. If you find this type of analysis useful, if you value calm, structured discussion without sensationalism, you can support the channel by subscribing, liking the video, and sharing it with others who want to understand conflict without falling into propaganda. One final note. This video is not intended to glorify violence, nor to justify civilian suffering. The analysis is based on open sources, military patterns, and strategic logic, all of which can evolve as new information emerges. Use this video as a tool for thinking, not as absolute truth. Because in war, the most dangerous weapon is not hardware, but certainty that is never questioned.